Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is the second chat in our series. Today, our partner ExtraHop is with us. We have Ned Stoll and John Smith, who you'll hear from in a few minutes. And of course, there's Dan, Tammy, and Phil for the second chat. You know, guys, the last time we started with a funny story, and I think it really helps all of us if we start that way. So, Phil, I think you had a story for us. If you don't mind, can you share it?
Yeah, I was thinking the other day that this whole COVID-19 thing has really, maybe changed the whole way that we look at going to a neighbor and maybe borrowing a cup of sugar. But instead of borrowing a cup of sugar, maybe we're lending them now toilet paper. So bottom line is that, I think that is, something that, we would have never thought a number of years ago that we would be going to a neighbor to ask if they had extra toilet paper.
John, any funny stories for you?
Yeah, one funny story. I don't know if you can see right here, but
oh yeah,
I lost my glasses broke and my eye doctor is closed, so I'm rather proudly parading around town with the safety pin in my glasses, kind of reminding me of when I was a kid and I would break my glasses and my parents would punish me by making me walk around with tape for a couple of days, So anyway, so I've had to MacGyver my glasses at least until my eye doctor opens up again. So
I think that's true. You got a lot of people that have to, normally would get someone to come fix it or deal with it. You have to start doing these things by yourself, right?
Yep, exactly. Yes, thank goodness for safety pins and duct tape are essential service things that have right now. So for sure.
As my brother used to say, if women don't find you handsome, they better find you handy. So duct tape solves all, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that really is interesting to me is some of the things that ExtraHop is doing. But I really want John, who was an ex-customer, to tell us a little story about, what it was like to be a customer and why he came to ExtraHop. Just if you don't mind, John, real quick.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I was at McKesson and I swore that we would not buy ExtraHop. Actually, one of the challenges there is you name a tool, we had it. And we had, several seven-figure investments in a lot of tools. And that was kind of the main reason I didn't want to bring in another one. And then I saw it. So I had to eat crow a little bit when I went to my boss and told him, hey, those guys I said were crazy. Actually, they're not. We kind of need this tool. Then I took a little bit of ribbing when I went to work for them. So the platform itself was really, really valuable in terms of what it did for us. And especially my SC at the time, our current VP was Matt Cawthorn, and he did a great job of just educating me on the product. And I was just blown away with what I could do with it.
That's awesome. It's one of the things that attracted us to ExtraHop. And Dan, I'm actually going to call on you instead of ExtraHop folks for a second. What was it that intrigued you about ExtraHop and why you really took the leap you did and did so much with the shuttle, et cetera?
Well, for years ago, so obviously I'm on the security team now, but, I spent a lot of time in enterprise management at a lot of different large corporations. And back then you had a lot of agents that we put together. We used to have this product called like IT Cam. And it was to monitor complex applications where there was a database, a web server, middleware, clients, and you had the data coming from a lot of different agents to stitch together how the application was performing. And at best, you were getting a snippet of what an application looked like. So when I first saw the ExtraHop for the first time, actually, when they came and demoed it at Champion, the idea of getting it from the wire, being able to do it at the speed they were doing and the real-time capability of it, blew my mind away. And I literally was like, oh my God, how many months would I have saved of time, back when I was doing this enterprise monitoring. And of course, then being able to, once they have that data, looking at it from a security perspective, you just can't hide from it. All right. As Bobby would say, it's a security camera in your data center. There is no way to hide the bad guys when they're doing something because they're doing it on the network. ExtraHop's going to see it. So it's a beautiful tool in that sense.
Hey, John, if you could, ever since COVID-19 came out, the ExtraHop's been doing some interesting things to really help some folks with the onslaught of work from home, people hitting the network, hitting the VPN. Can you share some of the things that we've been doing to really provide some insight and some help with a lot of those folks?
Yeah, my colleague Josh Snow has recorded a series of work from home videos, but basically they're really handy to go through and kind of look at how to leverage your ExtraHop appliance to make sure that the work from home experience is going well. So a few things happen. We try to give them visibility first into their infrastructure. A lot of solutions are supporting orders of magnitude more users than they previously were, right? And so that's a lot of things. When I was at the CDC, I actually built their telework system, and we had a snow day that tipped our system over, and it wasn't the VPN concentrator, it was our profile server. Part of the challenge here is that these telework solutions are ecosystems, and when they get pushed, there are any number of moving parts that can get tipped over that could bring the entire thing crashing down. So giving visibility into the performance and how it's working and continuing business continuity is part of it. The other part is just doing things along the security side. John Smith lives in St. Petersburg, Florida. If he logs in from Belarus, that's probably something you want to be able to track and see. So geocoding those incoming IPs, being able to see where users are coming from, those are also very important. The last thing, and probably a little bit more disturbing, is we have seen an instance of some end users kind of hedging their telework bets or their remote access bets by installing third-party tools. We've seen a lot of folks download TeamViewer, log me in. We actually had a compromise with a product called Parallels. We're also seeing Go to My PC. The problem is in a lot of organizations, at a minimum, using these third-party tools is a policy violation, right? Because again, you're going around, the VPN is there, it's got policies, it's got security, it's got multi-factor authentication. Now you've circumvented or undermined that with this third-party tool. And in a lot of cases, that at a minimum is a policy violation. And at a maximum, if there's a breach, that's essentially potentially going to serve as a get out of jail free card for your cyber insurance provider. And I'll give you some stats. In 2018, I did a query for cyber insurance underwriter. There were exactly 0 jobs in that category. In 2019, there were over 200 jobs posted in that category, and they're growing. So we've seen exponential growth in the number of people that are going to be critical of your cyber insurance policy. And that obviously things like downloading third-party tools that then circumvent your existing remote access policies, those are going to be looked at the same way as if I have 5 pit bulls in my yard and neighbors with little kids living around them, right? So you really need to take that into consideration.
Yeah, John, that was a great couple of points that you made. I'm particularly interested in the fact that you were talking about a get out of jail free card. Can you go back and, clarify and give us a little bit more, explanation about what you meant by that?
Yeah, so when someone purchases cyber insurance, right, and I'm not an expert on it, I don't know how every policy is written, but typically any insurance policy comes with the expectation that you'll meet a certain level of guidelines. For me, I won't drive fast on my car, or I'll be vigilant about how my property and how its safety. So here, if somebody has a secure remote access solution and another end user goes and they download something like TeamViewer, keep in mind TeamViewer was breached by China in 2016, right? That was a rather large, significant calamity for anyone that was using it. So if someone then downloads this, they've essentially undermined their agreement with their cyber insurance provider by leveraging that third-party tool. And a breach of that could potentially result in a really, really difficult conversation with your underwriter if in the event that you want them to pay for any damages for it.
Yeah, that's interesting because I gotta think, just like any insurance, right? They're sometimes don't want to pay up, and that gives them a reason not to, in a sense. And then, just your guys, or John, in your opinion, is this worse now? Because again, that quick move to working at home is a lot of people might be doing BYOD, using their own devices, which may have had TeamViewer or other software already loaded on it, right?
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. So when you think of my personal home computer, right now, I'm in IT, so mine's a little more secure. But if you think of what you do to protect your end users, you've got your endpoint, you've got a corporate image, you've got your antivirus, and now you're forced to open up your corporate assets to maybe those particular endpoints that don't meet those standards that you have, and that's very, very dangerous. And there's a lot of people that are just there's a couple things that we've seen happening. One, we have those personally owned computers that are now accessing corporate assets, and that's got to be making, remote access teams rub their temples, to try to deal with. But by the same token, also you have people that have, they only have a certain number of licenses, so maybe they're opening up RDP remotely, right? So they're kind of having to hold their nose and loosen some of those restrictions. Maybe we need to increase the number of failed logins before we lock them out. And so those are some of the things that are really, really kind of challenging, because we really went ad hoc into this, mobile workforce, and people look, a lot of companies didn't have the infrastructure for it, and they've had to make some really tough compromises. I mean, if I have the choice of giving full VPN access to someone's home system who I have no idea what it's going to do, or opening up RDP, and I know that's not safe, but at least I can watch that, and provide visibility into that. So there's been some really, to your point, that's a really good point. There's been some really tough decisions that remote access teams have had to make.
And they had to make them really quick too. It wasn't like they planned this out on Tammy's chalkboard there. These were like overnight decisions, right? So the next one, and Ned or John, either one, I'm going to borrow Tammy's chalkboard up here and just bring up the ExtraHop bundle of like working at home and VPN. Can you just explain a couple things that you guys have done, or ExtraHop, I should say, so we clarify that, has done for their customers, and for other folks that are looking possibly at what ExtraHop can do, especially with this VPN, as far as you had mentioned, twofold, right? One is getting people to work. Is there a performance issue? And then, of course, we can never forget about security.
Hey, Ned, I think one of the things that I think would be really exciting to the folks on the line right now is the bundles that were created for VPN stay-at-home folks, and the fact that they can get these through Champion free of charge for a short time, just to be able to see if this will help them through this time. So if you wouldn't mind, can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So I would say almost immediately when COVID-19 came out, a lot of our engineers who understand the challenges that a lot of our customers are having right now, they took it upon themselves. We've got one particular guy named Josh Snow who is one of our engineers in Seattle. He started to put together these dashboards, put together these bundles that would really help our customers take advantage of everything that was going on right now, so they could really maximize ExtraHop. And I may lean on John for this a little bit. John's had some pretty good experience with this. If you want to chime in on it.
Well, both the VPN and work from home bundles contain some key metrics, right? They contain key metrics around performance, how is it doing, right? Keep in mind, business continuity is still part of security. It's not really that sexy and talked about a lot, but it is part of, and this is the largest business continuity exercise probably in history. So, there are key metrics around how is it performing? How is your VPN performing? What are the number of users that are on it, giving you that visibility. And also, if you need more money to buy more equipment, you're going to have to be able to show metrics saying, hey, we had X number of users. So having those key metrics for both the work from home bundle and the VPN bundle are very important. And then in addition to that, we also get into security, right? Where are users coming from, who's logging in, who's accessing what assets, and what part of your telework infrastructure is being leveraged. And so that's one of the great things about having an extensible platform, is that you can take advantage of those rock stars both at ExtraHop, but additionally people like Dan Powers, and also our customers have some really talented people. And so, one of the things I'll tell people is that, we'll give you a shrink wrap product, and those are free right now, as Tammy pointed out. But we'll also give you an empty canvas, and you can paint your own masterpiece. And we have seen our customers paint absolute masterpieces. So keep in mind, it's an open platform. If there's something specific you need within a dashboard, you can add that if you need to customize it. But for today, yes, we have 2 bundles, VPN and work from home, and both of them have key metrics, both around performance and security.
Yeah, and I noticed that, John, to your point, right? Because I watched the VPN and the work at home bundle and how many versions it went through in a matter of days. And the comments, at least from what I could see, was obviously real customers coming back and saying, hey, can you do this? Or, hey, we added this. And ExtraHop, to your point, John Snow, saying, yep, I'm going to add this in there. And the version of that changed almost daily for the first couple of weeks there.
Yep.
All right, I'll pass it over to Ned, but for those customers that don't know about ExtraHop, can you maybe tell us a little bit about ExtraHop and how you fit in the marketplace?
Yeah. So for those of you that maybe are not familiar with ExtraHop, we are a network security analytics company. We essentially tap into the network to provide visibility for IT ops and security teams. One thing that I like to tell a lot of folks, if you can explain it to your kids, then you could probably explain it to anybody. And I'll share this with you real quick. So, for anybody that's ever been to New York City, and they've ridden the subway train, and if you've ever seen a subway map, it is like this big, huge interconnectedness of just mass chaos, right? There are trains going hundreds of miles, or there's hundreds of trains, there's 1,000, probably over 1,000 miles worth of tracks, and it is just mass chaos. There's 8 million people getting on that train every single morning. And what ExtraHop does is we see everything. We see it all. We see those 8 million people getting on the train. We see all the trains in motion. We understand what all those people are saying to each other that get on the train. They may speak German, French, Pig Latin. It doesn't matter. We understand all the languages. We understand and see what they're carrying in their bag. There may be a train track down the road that is acting a little funny. With our machine learning, we're going to help shed some light on that and say, hey, you may not know, but this track is acting a little funny. You ought to check it out. Click, click, click. Oh yeah, I can see exactly what the issue is. Let's go fix it before it becomes an issue. From a security aspect, out of those 8 million people that get on the train every day, imagine if this one particular day, somebody from China that has never gotten on your train gets on, and we would shed some light and say, hey, this is something that's never happened before. How do I know? Click, click, click. This person has an IP address in China. Do we have an office in China? No, we should probably stop them right now and investigate it. So at a 100,000 foot view, that's really what we're doing. At a deeper dive view, we're certainly making sense of all the analytics that happen in real time for all these customers.
Thanks very much for that analogy. I thought that was a great one. As you mentioned, it's complete visibility across the entire enterprise. Now that we've got customers, both large and small, that utilize ExtraHop. And one of the things that I think ExtraHop has done most recently is it's made it a lot more affordable for the smaller customer. Can you go into a couple of things that ExtraHop's done to be more affordable to the smaller customer?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. First things first, this past year in January, actually, we have a lot of different size appliances that analyze a couple customers' network. And one of the things that has really allowed us to thrive in enterprise class organizations is that we scale at just a massive rate. But we also realized that there were a lot of folks that aren't, the Home Depots or, the large customers. And there's this enormous market that we needed to provide this visibility to. And so in January, we announced some new products that analyze, 1 gigs, 5 gigs, and again, we'll scale up to 100 gigs. So it certainly allows, from a price point and the ability to help customers in that mid-market, the opportunity to get ExtraHop into their environment and kind of get that visibility. But at the same time, we also rolled out a program called the ExtraHop Spotlight. Yeah, and so the ExtraHop Spotlight is really our way of helping a lot of customers get the value out of their RevealX deployment, as well as increase their security knowledge and maturity on an individual level. And when you submit an investigation request through ExtraHop Spotlight, an ExtraHop analyst will spend up to 2 hours creating a written report on the detection that's in question within the customer's enterprise, and really this service brings up deep expertise into the context of what's unique for you and what's occurring in your environment right now. So it's something that we've just rolled out. We're starting to see a lot of interest, mainly because there are a lot of customers and enterprises that really don't have the resources to watch over a lot of things that are going on in their environment. So we're really seeing a surge with this service of ours.
And the reason I brought up, I don't normally show my bat cave, right, because it's kind of confidential here, but what I loved about ExtraHop is what we find day to day. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ned or John, right, is I got the database guys looking over here. I got the network guys, tools up here. I got my server team, my cloud team. I got what I call that swivel seat. I'm moving around to 50 different monitors, 50 different tools. One of the things that I loved about ExtraHop, and I think customers find it, is that I can bring everything into one tool set. And when I have a conversation with the different teams, we're all looking at the same data. There's no finger pointing. It's just, these are the facts. Here's the issue. How do we go fix it? And that's one of the things that I thought ExtraHop was key on.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. One of the quotes I've used is that we serve the org, not the org chart, right? Where database teams have this tool, security teams have this tool, Citrix team has this tool, right? Network engineers have this tool. Our only prerequisite is an IP address. If you have something with an IP address, you can derive value with the ExtraHop platform. In fact, when I was at McKesson, security, networking, Citrix databases, Active Directory, all of us use this tool. And to your point, Dan, it made the war room a little nicer when we could all see one another's performance. There was certainly a lot less finger pointing for sure.
Absolutely. So Tammy, anybody else have any final thoughts, or what are the...
I think we need to wrap it up. We promised everybody 20 minutes. Just so you know, we're going to have on the screen here, I think, Dan, you put it up already. The next chat we are having is with StealthBits, also a long-term partner of ours. And we're going to be covering managing user credentials and managing access to data and files with them. So if you haven't registered already, the PowerPoint that Dan's showing right now has registration links, so we'll send that out. We also will send out a copy of this today, but I think the biggest thing we want to do right now is to go ahead and take those questions. We tend to forget that, but we need to go ahead and take those now. All right, guys, let me jump in here. There's a question that just came in about ExtraHop. Does it work in a cloud or hybrid environment? Or, yep, that's what it was. Sorry, I started to read another one.
So I'll take that one. This is John Smith, and what I would say is absolutely will work in both. One of our use cases from our professional services team is a cloud migration, right? Where we can map out your applications, tell you who's talking to who, and then from there, as you make the migration to cloud, you sort of have some visibility over who talks to who, and then you don't have maybe this application server that's pining for something that's still on your on-prem. So first thing you need to do when you make that cloud migration is have the ability ability to map out your applications, see who's talking to who, and then that helps you make an orderly transition into the cloud environment. We also have had some very good success around deployments in the cloud. We're in the marketplace for Amazon, for AWS, and for Azure, and we also support GCP as well. So we are a very, very seamless in terms of where we're deployed, and we can federate those views in a centralized console so that you can see your entire, all of your assets from one central. So definitely we are a very great, an excellent cloud only, on-prem only, or a hybrid on-prem cloud solution.
Thanks, John. That really helps clear that up. Another question that, and I'll just field all the questions. I know you guys can see them as well, but I'll go ahead and keep going here. Another person said that their environment is about 80% encrypted. How would ExtraHop handle the encryption?
Yeah, a great quote I heard from a CISO was that he said, I have a petabyte of encrypted PCAP files, right? They're saving these PCAPs and you can't look at them. So we will decrypt the traffic. So we can decrypt, including TLS 1.3 with perfect forward secrecy. So we have if you have an F5, we can use an iRule, or we have a very low impact, what we call a session key forwarder that will forward session key. So we will decrypt that traffic. So we can do so in a manner that allows us to escrow the keys so you can control who sees the decrypted payloads. But more importantly, you're able to see, we've seen a lot of funny stuff in those payloads, and that includes bin bash, cmd.exe, and of course we see a lot of they'll base 64 encode their PowerShell commands, and those will end up in the payload. So you still need to have visibility to your payloads, to be able to see malicious activity coming in, and we sort of handle encryption by decrypting that, and we do so at scale. If you have a 20 gig or a 50 gig box and you want to do SSL decryption, it's still going to be a 20 gig or a 50 gig box.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Hey, another one, going back to Home Depot conversation. Why did Home Depot install ExtraHop in every location?
John, you're on a roll. I'll let you keep going.
Well, we've had a long-standing relationship with Home Depot. We had a lot of very big success with them. So they wanted visibility into their stores, right? So they didn't want that blind spot. This happens too if you look at a lot of large healthcare systems where they'll have a centralized location at a main hospital, but they'll also have clinic locations around. So they wanted to have that visibility in store. There's still assets in stores, and they just wanted to be able to have visibility into those remote locations. So obviously our platform, again, because we have the ability to federate views, if you have, several devices, we can, consolidate them so you're not logging into thousands of different devices. So one, we led with a very, very scale-friendly architecture, and we scale not just in terms of the amount of packets we can consume in bits per second. We scale well in terms of how we can accommodate large deployments like a Home Depot or a large hospital system. And what I mean by that is you need to be able to scale intelligently as well, right? You can't just have big muscles, you have to have the brains. And fortunately, we were able to have both.
Thank you. And there's just 2 more questions left to go. Let's see, what order am I going to do this? Probably back to you, John. What does a deployment look like of ExtraHop?
Typically, a deployment is one of the things I like about it is there's no agents to install and there's nothing to configure, right? From a security standpoint, I've always thought if you have to configure something or install it, then you can unconfigure it and you can uninstall it, right? And so it can be kind of undermined. So because we're sitting back passively working from a covert position, we don't have to deploy any agents on any systems. We require a span or a tap, right? Or if you're a larger organization, a packet broker or a span aggregator is very valuable. So we just need a mirror of the traffic. So that keeps us from touching any of the systems. There's no new agents to deploy, and that gives us full visibility without touching the systems. And one of the things, the challenges I had with some of the BMC agents and even the Citrix Patrol and Citrix Edge site is a quote I used to use: depending on an agent to alert you when something's broken is like telling someone who's drowning to yell for help. If someone's underwater, they can't yell for help. So
Yeah.
here we're sort of sitting back passively observing the traffic. And I've called us the adult in the room when we were selling a lot of performance, right? Where, you know, there was a lot of finger pointing and we're sitting back saying, well, we were sitting back passively observing these transactions and we observed this, right? And that's empirical. And to Dan's point earlier, it sort of ended a lot of the finger pointing and arguing. So a deployment is typically you pick which VLANs you want visibility into. Typically, that's the crown jewels, right? We have this, you know, if it'll land you in court or Krebs, let's build a surveillance strategy for those assets. So we'll take the crown jewels, span those VLANs, and then from there start to deliver visibility.
Great. And last question, actually, Dan Powers, I'm going to ask you this question. It's can we, or how do we get a POC or a view of the technology?
Good question. So twofold. One is that you could also go to the ExtraHop demo site, which I thought was really cool. You can actually register, log in, and it is a live replay demo where it will walk you through whether you're looking at performance or you're looking at security. And it's actually, you can play on your own, or you can even go through a guided tour. But to me, I always, you know, working with customers say, hey, you know, my demo should work right. PowerPoints are awesome to get a point across, but to really prove something, you need to see it work in your environment, right? And at the end of the day, that's what customers want. So from Champion side, we do this with our little security in a box, our shuttle solution, which is an EXI server. ExtraHop being our partner was good to us and let us run the RevealX platform fully open with everything enabled. And we can do what I call like a proof of concept, exactly what you're asking for there. You can see this technology working in your environment. You could see what it opens up in your environment. We are limited with the size of our box, as Ned was speaking earlier, right? They can go from 1 to 5 to 25 to 100 gigabits per second. Our little shuttle box is limited to the gigabit per second of sustained data. But to show people what's happening in most environments, it is definitely going to give you that visibility. And time after time, one of the best quotes, because it just seems to happen all the time, is when we look at certain things and I'll say, hey, what would you normally do in this situation? Or is this normal for you? I usually get somebody look at me and go, we have no idea. I've never been able to get that view or that insight before. So we definitely can do that. And of course, ExtraHop themselves can come in, scale it to their bigger appliances, and really do much more of that big official POC if you're interested in it.
Thanks, Dan. I think the big thing that I really paid attention to today as well is if we would go in and do a proof of concept or show somebody the technology. For those of you that are really trying to figure out your remote workforce and trying to monitor some of that, those dashboards we talked about today would be available to you for let's put it this way, a longer than normal time at no cost, just to help you out. So hopefully everybody learned a little bit more about ExtraHop today. As we said before, we're trying to do these chats every week to educate you, and we appreciate everybody's attendance, and we'll let you get back to your day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.